Good morning and welcome to the video for Monday, May the 18th. This is going to be for 4th grade. And we're going to be continuing the idea of working with areas. So this is going to be a lesson that we kind of introduced a little bit last year, but didn't really spend a whole lot of time on. And so you'll notice I have some things written in over here. It's just to save time a little bit later on. So to start with, what we're going to do is say that one way that we can do this is to count unit squares. So for the rose garden, that's going to be our top section here, we can count 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and then we can write that number down and add that to the number of unit squares that we can count for the herb garden. So the herb garden, 4, 8, 12, 16. And so when we add those together, that is going to give us 40 square meters. So that is one way that we can do it, but most of the time we're actually going to do some kind of multiplication problem followed by addition. So to start with, I want to at least leave this where you can see the numbers at the top. For the rose garden, we're going to be looking at a base of 8 times a height of 3, and that is going to give us 24. And then for our herb garden, we're going to have a base of 4 times a height of 4, and that would give us 16. And again, we're going to get the exact same answer that we started with from doing it the first way, and that would be 40 square meters. So moving on to the next page, let's go ahead and take a look at this particular shape. And so this shape we can break up into different rectangles. There's two different ways that we could do that. We could also go this way, which is answering another question down here that we're not going to spend a lot of time on. But what we can do is we can go ahead and say that our base for this is going to be 8 and our height is going to be 9. So 8 times 9 is going to give us one of our problems. And so that's going to give us 72 for the area for rectangle A. For rectangle B, we don't want to use this 24 at the bottom, and the reason why is because part of that is the base for this. And so if we're going to divide the shape this way, we need to find this measurement, and since it's already given, we're going to do 16 times 17. We ended up with 102 on the top, 170 on the bottom, which is going to give us 272. And then now we can add those. So 72 plus 272 is going to give us 344 square feet. And so, assuming that I do the other method correctly, we should get the exact same answer. So to start with, what they want us to do is a subtraction problem using the total available area, as if this part were filled in. And so we're going to do 24 times 17 to get that, and then we are going to subtract out the missing section. The missing section problem is much easier. It would be 8 times 8, and if we remember our math facts for multiplying by 8, we should get 64. And so whatever number that we get here minus 64 should give us this number. So 408 minus 64. If we are doing our proper regrouping, we would go ahead and do this. I know in 3rd grade we talked about kind of bracketing this together and doing 40 minus 6. Either one of those would be okay. So we're going to get 344, which does match what I got up here. So I did the problem correctly. To answer this question, is there another way we could break up the shape? Let me take a red pen here. We could go ahead and instead of doing this one, we could go this way. And so what we would end up with is a shape that is 16 by 8, and then our other shape would be 9 by 24. What we would want to do for this one is go ahead and say that we could count the squares, or we could go ahead and find our measurements. So there are two different ways we could do it. We could go ahead and find our base of 3 times our height of 3 for the green one, or we could count the unit squares. And then the other one would have a base of 7 and a height of 2. So those are two different ways that we could do that. I'll let you choose which one you want to write down. But if we have the unit squares available, that's usually the easier option. So for number 2, number 3, and number 4, I want you to go ahead and pause the video. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is I'm giving suggestions here. So for number 2, I am going to suggest that the easiest way to break this up is to go ahead and break it up across from left to right here with my line. And so the top area is going to be 3 times 12, the bottom area is going to be 6 times 6, and you could add those together. For number 3, I'm suggesting that you could probably go ahead and do 18 times 9 to get the total. And then we can subtract out our 2 times 8. For number 4, I would suggest the easiest way is to go ahead and draw across here. And then we are doing 16 times 4. Again, if we start at 8 high and we're taking 4 away, that means this measurement's going to be 4. And then we can take away 2 groups of we can do 2 groups of 4 times 4, and then our bottom rectangle would be 16 times 4. So go ahead and pause the video real quick while you work on those. When you're ready, go ahead and hit play. And so assuming you did that, I'm going to do something that I do. If you are not one of my students, I would check with your teacher and make sure that they are okay with this. I normally write the areas that I'm working on right on the problem. And so what I would do is write 36 for this one, 36 for this one, add those together to get 72, and it would be millimeters squared. For this one, what we are going to end up with is 18 times 9. That is going to give us 90 plus 72. And so 90 plus 72 is going to give us 162 minus our 16 for this part. And so we would change this to a 5, and we should have 146 as the area for that. And it looks like it's saying it would be miles. So MI is usually the abbreviation for miles. For number 4, again, we are working with adding the different rectangles together. So I have a 16 for this one, I have a 16 for this one. 16 times 4 gives me 64. So 64 plus 16 is going to give me 80, plus 16 is going to give me 96. All right, so really quick, I want to explain number 6. I'm not going to take the time to do number 5. You could know that this is going to be 96. We could do 6 times 14 to get our other measurement and add them together. What I do want to spend some time with, because this video is already getting a little bit longer than I would like it to be, is to talk through this part. So one of the things that we have to do if we're going to find the perimeter and area of combined rectangles is to figure out what the missing measurements are. And so I know that I've got a 4 here, and I could subtract that from the 12 that I start with to get 8 up here. I can do the same thing for my other side here, which would represent the height if I were to make a rectangle going this way. And so I can do 9 minus 4 to get 5. Now I have all of the measurements that I need to go ahead and find the perimeter. So I could go ahead and add around the outside to get my perimeter. For the area of the combined rectangles, it depends on how I would do it. If I want to go ahead and go this way, I could do 12 times 5 to get the area of this one, and do 8 times 4 to get the area of this one. If I wanted to go this direction, I could do 4 times 5 to get the area of this one, and 8 times 9 to get the area of this one. So those are the ways that we could do that. Again, how you choose to do that depends on which strategy you would want to use. The third strategy we could use would be to multiply 12 times 9 and then subtract out the 16 square feet that I would get for 4 times 4 from this missing area. So let's talk through the homework problems real quick. I am going to suggest use whichever strategy you are most comfortable with. I'm going to give the final answer. I'll talk through possibly how you could do it in different ways to give you your intermediate steps, but I'm more going to be concerned with the final answer. So you choose which strategy you are most comfortable with. I would suggest for most of these, like for number 3, that it would probably be easiest to just go ahead and split it up, because you would not have to find any other measurements. We would do 9 times 5 for the top, 6 times 3 for the bottom. And let's see, for number 6, write a word problem that involves combined rectangles. My students, I normally say do 2, 4, 6. I'm going to suggest instead to do 2, 4, and 5. Again, any of those writing problems, you could literally just borrow any other problem, change the numbers slightly, and write it down. So I don't find that those are particularly useful for my students, and they take more time and hassle than the benefit we would get out of that. So number 1 and number 2 on the back, the area formula, again, is going to be the basic one that we have from the lesson. Area of combined rectangles, again, you could go ahead and decide how you choose to do that. If you are going to go this direction, keep in mind you're going to have to do 5 minus 3 to get the measurement for the height here. Okay, so for number 4, if you're doing this problem, if we purchase 3 books, each with a different price for a total of $24, but the cost of each book has to be a multiple of 4. So think about what multiples of 4 you could add together that would be different from each other, that when you add them together, you get a total of 24. And number 5, again, we're making a square magnet, 3 on each side, just apply the formula for perimeter. And again, number 6, just a simple multiplication problem to get the answer for the area for that. So those are the problems for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in Google Classroom. Our homework video will be coming out on Tuesday, and that will allow us to go ahead and get set up for our very last lesson of the school year. So I'm excited that we are very close to the end. I know you guys probably are too, because you're ready for a break from all of this, even though I've been very gracious as far as the workload and not overburdening you guys, or at least my students. Hopefully everyone else is having a wonderful time with that as well, where we're learning, but we're not making you spend hours a day to get things done. So hopefully that's your situation as well. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.